Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the country. Now you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of over there? Because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They say this all the time. They don't read any of the comments. They talk down to us. They say that we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube and Twitter, but I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is amazing, then also definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, and ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and it's truly turning into something special. And I really believe that we can build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, that we're excited to be part of, and that we have a lot of pride in. And so I would really appreciate for you to subscribe so we can continue building that. And honestly, I really feel like we're already well on our way to doing it. So without further ado, let's get to it. Watching a clip from First Things First, talking about whether or not Tua can outplay Mahomes. Before I press play, I'm going to say it's like an unfair question. You know, is it technically possible because Mahomes is having a down year? Yes, I do. But it's just like unfair because you're asking Tua to really step up, in this moment. Really his first time, his biggest game. He's on the road. It's freezing cold. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, this isn't like fair. You're not equating two people who are on the same level. Just in general of experience, of health, of teams, of all of these things. So I just think it's just like kind of an unfair question just off the top. So I'll just kind of throw that in there before I hit play, but let's get into it.
We start with the AFC wildcard. Dolphins are 4.5-point underdogs in Kansas City on Saturday night on Peacock. Don't forget, last matchup was in Germany where the Chiefs won even though the offense was shut out in the second half. Neither quarterback threw for over 200 yards, and it's going to be polar vortex chilly. May end up being one of the coldest games ever, and honestly, just say a cold number and someone is reporting that's what it's going to be. Minus 15, sure. Minus 30. Yep. Now, our studio, however,
what's up, buddy?
is room temperature.
It is.
Yet you are wearing a famous, first things first, famous fleece.
Yes. I've worn this one other day in my life. It also happened to be, one of the best days of my life. A great day in the history of the show, except for the moment when Wilds got kicked off the show for Eric Stone Street. It was, of course, the Chiefs parade. This has been sitting, hanging in the closet since then, waiting for a special day to break it out. And what better?
This is why he pumps up the Chiefs so much and so astronomical, because it's good for his brand. He's taking pictures with Kelsey, Mahomes, and all of that. And as he, grows older and matures into, a personality, and as long as Mahomes keeps up his trajectory, if that ends up being your number one guy, it's just good brand. Again, it's why, you have Shannon Sharp just so all over LeBron. It helps, it really does help. And I'm not saying that it's like not authentic to Nick, but it's why they lean on it so heavily and so much. And, from my perspective, it gets a little old, honestly, especially because when you're not giving actually like fair analysis. So
Better day than the eve of the postseason when I'm going to be asked foolish, silly questions like this one. Can chances Tua Tagovailoa outplays Patrick Mahomes in a playoff game? In a playoff game. And now listen, I know Bruce says we don't wave pom-poms for anyone, but we on this show tend to wave pom-poms for our own picks. And I understand that's tough for both of you because Brew is, of course, without a Super Bowl pick at this point because he abandoned his pick of the Eagles. And Wilds claims to be with the Chiefs, but when you picked him to lose outright to the Patriots and to Bengals, which is why you got kicked off upset alert, and when all of the luminaries of Kansas City have absolutely, what did they say? Excommunicated you from from the kingdom. I, of course, am the only one with the Super Bowl pick left standing. And let me tell you this weekend what is going to happen.
I picked
Bro,
the
Vikings.
You
I
did not
picked
pick
the Ravens to at least get
Yeah,
there.
I'm talking about a winner. I'm talking about a Super Bowl winner. I'm talking about a Super Bowl winner.
Stop.
And so what we have here is a guy who's never been in the playoffs, but when he's been in playoff-adjacent scenarios, has played his worst football, and we can show you that.
Stop with this nonsense of these playoff-adjacent scenarios. Playoff-adjacent scenarios are not the playoffs, number one. Number two, you're talking about playing, first of all, in 2020, Buffalo has been, really good all these years, especially with a decent defense. And that was without your new head coach, the one that truly unlocked you. Same thing with 2021. And when you played Tennessee, they also, if memory serves me correctly, were a good team. So this is such nonsense. And again, he was playing for a coach that didn't even want him. The whole organization was talking about trading him for Deshaun Watson. So that's BS nonsense. Stop it. If you want to look at this year's 2023 game, I'll give you that. But it's also not fair because you went up against the Ravens, who have been killing everyone. They destroyed the Cowboys. They destroyed the Eagles. They destroyed oh my God. No, I'm getting confused right now. I was thinking of 49ers. Sorry. The Baltimore destroyed the Dolphins, obviously, and they destroyed the 49ers. So Baltimore is a really, really, really good team. No ifs, ands, or buts. Lamar Jackson is the MVP. So just stop. So that loss, obviously it wasn't great, but it was against potentially the Super Bowl winning franchise. So that's not fair. Buffalo, it was 21-14. Let's not act like they just got, ravaged, over the coals here. It was a difficult game. He doesn't have good playoffs he doesn't have a great defense right now, which does help. I'm not going to act like Tua played this amazing game or that he couldn't have played better. I really think Josh Allen won that game, but it was 21-14. Let's not act like Tua just didn't show up and it was just a complete and utter disaster. Did he make a couple bad throws? Sure, but then he also had some throws that didn't go his way because of some drop passes or the one thing that happened with Tyreek Hill, where there was a pass interference against Tyreek, and then he actually didn't catch it. And if he actually caught it, which he should have caught it, he would have run for a touchdown. I mean, no one was going to stop him. And so that now changes everything. That changes everything. So I just don't think that's fair. So enough of this nonsense of using this past record for him because, one, it's not the playoffs, and two, half those games weren't even with the current coach who actually believed in him. So it's nonsense.
That, and he is going up against a guy who not only has been in the playoffs, and the reason those are playoff adjacent scenarios, I should say, week 17 2020 was a win and you're in, week 17 2021 was a win that week and the next week and you're in, week 17 this year against Baltimore was for the 1 seed, and last week was, of course, for the 2 seed. And they're all losses, all poor games. So let's see how Patrick Mahomes, Brew, does in the postseason.
He's
Always
really
the best
good.
ever. And so then you ask this question, wait, has Patrick Mahomes ever been outplayed in a playoff game by the opposing quarterback? And the answer is yes, once. The Super Bowl against Tom Brady. That's the only game of his career where the opposing quarterback outplayed him. And so how is Patrick Mahomes...
Some might argue, Josh,
the game where Patrick Mahomes won, had more yards, had more touchdowns, and had more rushing yards?
Unless you just, I don't remember what the stats were when Brady beat him in the AFC title game.
Brady had 2 picks, Mahomes had none. Mahomes had more yards, Mahomes had a 120 passer rating, Brady had 74. So since that one moment, the argument would be some would argue Burrow in the AFC title game, Mahomes lost, but Burrow actually didn't play that great in that game. So the answer is it's happened once. Since then, since the one time Mahomes was outplayed, how's he done? Oh, he's been even better. The only loss is that overtime AFC title game. So, Brew, I apologize for being long-winded here. But the answer is, of course, unequivocally, absolutely not. And I might just, listen, while I won't be in Kansas City this weekend, this would feel quite warm, even in negative 20-degree weather. But maybe we'll break this out again here in about a month. But go ahead.
I disagree with that.
But it is very well lined. It's very well made.
After this little display of arrogance and bombast,
What?
I hate to say this.
Oh, he agrees.
Well, Nick is right.
Thank you.
It's slim to none. I'm not going none just in by the chance, any given Sunday, who knows. But slim to none, okay? It's not just we could sit here. You already showed us how great Mahomes is in the playoffs, but I could just talk about how bad Tua has been against good teams this year, or at least playoff teams. All right, look at these numbers: 1-5, but everything, passing yards isn't even close, 60 yards per pass, where he was one of the best, absolutely best in the league, one of the best in the league, but terrible, not terrible, but mediocre.
And this is what I keep saying, and that's why I said it's an unfair, question to even ask. I mean, it's just not fair. I mean, it really, really isn't. This isn't like LeBron James going up against Steph Curry, who's this like up and coming elite star, I'm talking about now years ago. And you're just like, Steph Curry is obviously starting to play really well and everyone's starting to really know who he is. And then he gets to the finals and then you can ask that question because you're like, who's Steph? Steph was, kind of just came out of nowhere seemingly. That's not Tua's journey. So I think it's like an unfair, real question. But again, look at that record. And this is what I was saying about the Dolphins. That they never really played well or beat anyone worth beating in that regard, except for the Cowboys, and that was more about the Cowboys losing that game. But I don't know if I just put all that blame on Tua. I'm just not prepared to do that just yet. I mean, a part of me thinks that my analysis of Tua gets slightly, fuzzy. I can't think of the word that I want to use. Definitely not fuzzy. But because I like him so much, I mean, I do. I genuinely want to see Tua succeed. He is the type of person I want to see succeed just in general in life, right? He's not a jerk. He's a nice person. He's made some public statements that were dangerous to make. Were genuinely dangerous to make, and he made them. And I will never forget that. I mean, so that is just awesome, I will always tip my hat to him. So I have just a genuine appreciation for him. So I want to see someone like that succeed. So it's please succeed. And I've dealt with a lot of physical injuries in my life, tore my meniscus 3 times, all, playing sports, broke my clavicle, finger, thumb, so I know what it's like to be banged up playing sports and, the physical therapy, then being doubted, can I do it? And I've had a couple concussions, but nowhere near as severe as some of these guys. And so I'm always sympathetic to people who, are struggling with these injuries and trying to overcome them. And, I get it. And so I want to see him succeed, but, I think I just don't know if all the blame can be on Tua in some of these situations. And also some of those games, in terms of, who played the playoffs first or who made the playoffs first, not, you're talking also about teams that are known to have really, really good defenses, like the Ravens, like the Bills, that's those 2 games right there. And so I just think it's, and you'll always do better against worse teams, right? It's always feast and famine. It's just a matter though of how much of a drop off. Again, talk to any professional athlete. They always talk about they get their numbers against the bad teams, right? That's when they really eat. That's when you get all the sacks you can, all the touchdowns, the yards, and that's where it kind of averages out. You're never going to play. I shouldn't say never, but you don't regularly play your greatest top level games against the best competition. You just don't. It's just not the way football necessarily works. Of course, in the playoffs and in Super Bowls and stuff like that, you rise to occasions and things like that happen. But it's just not always necessarily, the norm. So it's normal. If you're playing the number 1 defense, number 2, number 3 defense, you're not going to do as well as when you're playing the 28th defense, right? And if you did, then the rankings mean nothing. You know what I mean? The rankings would essentially mean nothing then. So, and it obviously matters. And it's not like a basketball where the stars get their numbers regardless, right? In basketball, it's Steph's going to get his 30 points. LeBron's going to get his 30 points. No matter how good the D is, no matter what the moment is, it's you're going to get your 30 points. You're going to get your 10 rebounds. You're going to get those numbers because it's just because the volume of shooting and playing is so much higher that you're going to get your numbers. That's why in baseball, it's not rare for someone to go up against a really good pitcher and go 0 for 3 because you only got 3 at bats. You got 3 at bats, 3 chances. It's well, that's really hard to do. Which is why if you succeed 1 out of 4 times, now the thing used to be, 7 out of 10. Now these days, if you just succeed 1 out of 4 times and get a hit, you're freaking a legend, right? If you're batting 250, you'll be getting paid and be on the team until, as long as you can still hold a bat and swing. Football is just not like that as much. It's just different, especially because teams, why teams are good versus bad or matchups, it's just sometimes a team is really good and has, a great seed, but it's all because of their offense, but their defense is trash. So when they play now another playoff team, a Tua can light them up because it's a bad defense. So it's just, it's just harder to really just look at these surface numbers without really looking at the record. But again, I do want to be consistent. I did call out the Dolphins more than I did Tua about these games, about playing harder teams and not succeeding necessarily. But this is what I'll say. It was a close game against the Cowboys. And, the Cowboys, you could make the argument, are better than the Chiefs. And it was a close game against the Bills. And you can make the argument that the Bills are better than the Chiefs. So just to make it like it's just like not possible or that like, oh my God, no, I disagree with that. So I'm excited for it. I really, really am. And I can't wait. But what do you all think? Do you think Tua can actually outplay the Patrick Mahomes? Please let me know in the comments below. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts on this one. And please don't forget to subscribe. We are building an amazing community here, and I truly would love to see you part of it. And please do give this video a thumbs up. It really helps with the visibility and the algorithm, and I truly would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.